graduated in the class of 13, and sent me a nice note saying that her experience as a dish crew captain enabled her, or is enabling her, to manage an after-school cooking program at an elementary school in Philadelphia. Another wonderful alum. Ava, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dave. So I just have to say that the last time I was up here, I was in pink overalls, and I was climbing through chairs there, and I ended up sitting on Larry Dickey's lap and calling him the big man around here, because Dave Gavitt told me to. So this spring, when I told one of my professors that I was interested in writing for a comedy TV show, she said, well, how do you feel about being in an environment that's surrounded by crass men? And I was like, I don't get fazed that easily. Because people, they don't understand GMBS. They don't really understand why your headmaster and your director and your ski coach and your advisor could all be the same person. They don't understand that your classmates were also your roommates and you traveled with them all over the world. And they certainly don't understand points. It's the hardest thing in the world to try to explain to someone what points are. But they do understand what GMBS turns you into. They do understand hard work. They do understand failing. And they want to hear about it. So I guess what I have to say is, like, you have a story. And that story isn't about how you did a ski race. It's about how you got to the ski race. It's about what happened when you fell and you were like, I worked so hard every day, and what did I do it for? It's not on the scoreboard. It doesn't say this person is recovering from an injury. It doesn't say this person got up early and stretched. All it says is DNF. But I just want to say that when you are applying for a job, they don't want to hear how you did at that ski race. They want to hear what you did when you got up. And I can speak to that. I can speak to getting up and saying, okay, I'm disappointed, but I'm going to push. I'm going to push through, and I keep working, and this is going to add to my story. And it really is a great place to fail, because you're surrounded by people who really care about you. And I'm not just saying that. I come back here and it feels like I'm coming back to family. Every single staff member that I see gives me a hug, and they want to hear how I'm doing. And getting to college, not having those people there that knew your whole life, at first it can be really scary. But the fact is that if you're here and you're asking questions, and you're asking, ask Danny, why do I do a one-legged squat instead of a two-legged squat? You'll always have that answer in your head. And that's really when you know that you have truly become a GMBS student. Okay, anyway, I'm just going to get straight to it and talk about what really matters. Dish crew. So, as Dave was saying, it has helped me with my job. And I wanted to tell a story about that. So, this fall I took a community service-based course, so you're required to do some work in the community as well as your class. And they have speakers come in and talk about the work they're doing and you decide to work with them. So we had one guy come in, his name was Jarrett Stein, and he had taken the class a few years ago. And he explained what the problem was in the West Philadelphia community is that it's a food desert, which means that people don't have access to healthy, fresh food that's affordable for them. And so a lot of kids grow up not knowing what a lot of vegetables are, not being familiar with fruit, and they don't develop a taste for it, and they turn to fast food. It's just not really something that they seek out, healthy food. So he was hired to go around and give kids nutrition talks. And he showed us a diagram of, he had to give the kids like diagrams, and they would fill out, those food pyramids, and he asked them to fill out their favorite foods. And one girl, he showed up on the screen, it was chicken, fried chicken, really fried chicken, French fries, chicken, grape juice at the top. And he said, okay, clearly this isn't working. So he had a new idea. He decided he was going to structure a program where the kids weren't sitting in a classroom. They were doing something active. They were engaged. He set up a partnership with a local farm, and he had kids cooking every Monday and Wednesday after school in one elementary school. And he split them up into teams, so it was a competition. And what he realized was that these kids, even if they're kids who get in trouble during the day or they're getting suspended, whatnot, they're not paying attention in school, they come in and they're really interested in cooking. And I was so inspired by him because here we always talk about the things we want to do one day, how we want to help the world, and here's someone who was actually doing what needed to be done, and I really wanted to work with him. So I signed up for that job and I started volunteering with him. And I was really surprised by a few things. Like, for example, they're having 5th graders working with these huge knives. And they're teaching them how to use the knives. And there's a whole certification test. So they learn how to use the equipment. They learn how to take care of the equipment. They're in charge of cleaning up after themselves. And they get points based on how well they clean up and how well the food turns out. So they're learning personal responsibility. They're learning how to take initiative. They're learning what they're good at, and they're doing what they're good at. There are a lot of different things to do. And again, I was really impressed by this. And one day I went to work, and I like to bike to work. I was like really happy that day because I was on time. And I get there, and there's no one there except for Jarrett. And he said, they're cleaning the floors today. You didn't get the email? And I was like, oh my God, PTSD, it's GMBS. But we sat down and started talking, and he said he's trying to figure out a better way to do the dishes, because there's only one sink and there are about 100 kids, and by the way, there's no kitchen in the school, so we're just working on tables. And I said, well, you could invest in a Hobart. He said, what's a Hobart? And I said, well. And then I explained Dish Crew to him, and he was fascinated. He was really interested in GMBS and everything that I had done here. And I just realized that there are actually a lot of parallels in what he was aiming to do. His vision was getting kids engaged, getting them to be in charge of their own equipment, getting them to challenge themselves and learn what they're good at, getting them outside the classroom. The classroom is good, but there's so much more to that. And at this age, it's really about learning how to take initiative and how to be there for yourself, so that when you graduate, you have those voices in your head and you know what to do. So anyway, just wanted to share that story. Also, just want to say for a lot of people that they will be really great ski racers, but you learn so much more than that here. You learn how to challenge yourself. You learn how to learn. You learn how to ask questions. And you learn when somebody tries to discourage you from doing something, to smile proudly and say, I went to GMBS.
Okay, now I think I'm introducing Matt Little. Oh, he's right there. Just before I stood up here to start, I got a text from Betty saying, I'll be there in 10. All right, so Matt Little was from Stowe, Vermont. He is currently living in Lebanon with his wife and his daughter. He's a GMBS class in '97. He was 2 years as a PG on the U.S. ski team. UVM class of 2003. He was a 2000 NCAA GS champion. He's in the UVM Hall of Fame. And he's a four-time, I don't know how many of these there actually are, he's a four-time NCAA All-American. He owns his own Woodard sales agency, and he's a terrific woodworker, and another fantastic GMBS alum who's taking time out of his busy day to be here with us. Thank you, Maddie.
My day really wasn't too busy, I sell ski equipment, so it's pretty clear what GMBS did for my livelihood. It's pretty easy to sell ski see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. I think there's probably some alumni here with their kids attending school, which I think is pretty cool. My experience at GMBS was rushed. I didn't plan on coming here until maybe 2 months prior. And I never really thought about Ski Academy much before I stepped foot on campus. We didn't have the infrastructure that there is now. Talking dish duty, I remember loading wood in the furnace here that heated this building, and that was something that they had available for us so we could do, basically help pay for some of the costs you saw in the earlier slides. They really made it, I guess, accessible to be successful here. Another experience is my first time ever on campus was meeting with Alice. She said, well, what do you read? I was like, I read catalogs. I was either looking at what biking equipment I wanted next or what fishing equipment I wanted next. I still read catalogs, but I read some other things now. So that's where I came into this school, was athletics and my hobbies and interests. GMBS taught me a lot, obviously. I think in 4 years, or I spent 6 here, all your kids will learn, and current students will learn more and more and more. You'll go to college with everything you need. For me, it was about the people that are at GMBS. There's still a lot here. It's about surrounding yourself with really good people. And the more experience I get in the real world, it's all about who you surround yourself with. And GMBS does the absolute best job surrounding your kids with the most unbelievable people. At the end of my freshman year, maybe I wasn't strong enough for Dave's liking. And he said to my parents, hey, I'd like to send Matt to Alaska to work with my college roommate on his fishing boat. Would you do that, Matt? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I didn't even understand that this is a big parent choice, say yes or no to this. Maybe they were naive, maybe they just trusted Dave, but they were like, yep, no problem. And in like a week, I was flying to Alaska to work for his college roommate, who turned out to be just as tough as Dave, but a really nice gentleman. I got off the plane, I thought I was going to get met by like a one-eyed captain. I had no idea what I was in for. And I spent 3 months up there. I flew from there to Portland, Oregon. They picked me up in a van. We went to Mount Hood, and I had the best camp of, to that time with GMBS. My skiing was better than it's been. My strength was better than it's been. And that's just an example. Maybe it's not to that extreme now, but an example of the staff seeing your potential and coming up with a way to get you to reach it. A lot of times I talk about, sometimes I spoke before, about goal setting. I don't think hopefully there's some kids in here that will reach their goal, but as I progressed through GMBS, my goals got higher. I went there with hopefully every young ski racer in here, whether Nordic or Alpine, has the goal of, whether it's winning a World Cup or winning an Eastern Cup. Those are really hard goals. But looking back on the goals you set, I never reached my goals. But I'm really proud of all the achievements to where I got. And I think that's really what it's all about, being surrounded by really good people and being really proud of any of the goals for the current students that have already reached them. And for the parents, just knowing that if they give it their best and they have the goals set high, whether in academics or athletics, they're going to they're going to reach a goal looking back that they were surprised they ever met. When I look at GMBS in my district here, at UVM, I'm just proud of, for me, what I accomplished, very short of my goals, and hopefully all your kids and current students are proud of, at the end of this kind of adventure you're going to start in, what you're going to take out of this place. So, thank you very much.
Always so proud of our alums. Next, last, and I think fascinating is the speaker we had yesterday, Sheila Heen. She is a founder of Triad Consulting. She's a graduate of Occidental College and Harvard Law School. She's a lecturer at Harvard Law School. She was appointed a lecturer at the age of 26, so she's just kind of ambling through life, clearly. She's part of the Harvard Negotiation Project. She's a co-author of a book that we all on the staff read that I would recommend to you. It's called Difficult Conversations. Terrific book. She's worked with, I won't list all, but she's worked with everybody from the Federal Reserve in America to the equivalent in Singapore. She's worked with the Obama White House, Merck, you name it. And she's been on every program from Oprah to NPR to Fox News, everything you've ever watched or heard. So she comes with a phenomenal background. We were blown away with her presentation to us yesterday. We were with her yesterday from 8 to 4. It was just phenomenal. At this point, what I'd like to do, just so that this is between Sheila and students and parents. So as she's coming up, I'd like to ask staff, unless you're also a parent and would like to stay, for staff to leave. I think we'll leave up here. Anybody here who wants to listen, just take a seat at the bottom, because I think I know from yesterday Sheila likes to wander around and this is on accord. So we won't be in your way up here either. So without further ado, and we have some built-in time here, we can bleed into the lunch period a little bit. So here we go with Sheila. Thank you.
Well, good morning. This is making it all very mysterious, like, what are they going to do after we leave? It's very secret. So, part of the opportunity we have is just to talk a little bit about what many of the alum here, the alumni, talked about in terms of a big piece of what they got out of their experience here, which is learning how to learn. And that seems kind of silly. I mean, how hard is it to learn how to learn anyway? And so one of the things I wanted to talk about with both parents and students is what I've learned over the last 20 years about how challenging that actually is. And particularly for certain kinds of people. So let me just get a sense of the kinds of people that we have in the room here among parents and students. How many of you would describe yourself, or have been described by others at any point, as driven, focused, smart, overachieving, ambitious? Any of those? How many of you would say, yeah, some of those do apply to me? Hello? Alright, let's back up. We're going to communicate. I have the microphone, you have your hands. So we're going to practice. Raise your hand if you are able to raise your hand. Okay, raise your hand if you hate raising your hand. Excellent. Okay, now, how many of you would describe yourselves as any of those things? Particularly driven, ambitious, focused, not satisfied with how things are, overachieving. Yeah, okay. So here's the good news and the bad news. The good news and the bad news is that you have the opportunity to get the most out of learning how to learn. The bad news is, it's particularly challenging for people like us. Now, Dave mentioned that I teach at Harvard Law School. You want to talk about a bunch of overachieving population students? I've been teaching there for 22 years, and before that, of course, I was a student there. And my students come into my negotiation class. Many of them have never been allowed to fail at anything in their lives. And they are terrified. Because in negotiation, like in racing, skiing, and in, by the way, life, it's a performance skill. There are not clearly right or wrong answers on a test. You are having to interact with other people who are just as bright as you are. And a lot of what I'm trying to teach them is actually how to learn from their experience and how to get better at this every day for the rest of their life. I'm going to give you the tools to do that, but you have to actually be willing to take risks, to look dumb, to see opportunities that you missed, and to think every single day at the end of the negotiation, what did I do well, and what is it that I need to think about doing differently? And I think that one of the things that this school does for you guys is actually equip you to do that well, to actually experience challenge, mistakes, setbacks, and to have to think, okay, how do I want to change the way I'm approaching this gate on the hill? How do I want to change the way I'm dealing with the conflicts with my roommate? How do I want to change the way I'm approaching how I study the present imperfect in French? Because clearly, given my quiz results, it ain't working so far. So I gotta figure out, how do I want to learn to do it better and approach it differently and experiment along the way. Now, let's talk a little bit about why this is hard, but if you can actually get good at it, you can thrive in life. I'm curious, of the adults in here, how many of you would say that you continue to work on things and learn every day? Whether that's at work, being a parent, figuring out how to be a parent of a fill-in-the-blank-year-old. Because have you noticed that keeps changing? I have a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And I feel like, okay, I got how to parent you as a 15-year-old, but then you went and turned 16. And you changed in a bunch of ways, and my old strategies aren't really working with you, or aren't really helping. And so that continuous conversation as I learn how to parent in the next stage, I think is a big piece of it. But of course at work, as leaders and managers and entrepreneurs, etc., you're always figuring it out as you go along. Okay, so here's my first question for you. I want to invite each of you, I'm talking to parents and students, to think of a piece of advice or a suggestion that you have received from someone in life, a piece of feedback, that you have not taken. You rejected it. And then turn to the person next to you, and you can tell them the piece of feedback that you rejected if you want to, but what I particularly want you to tell them is, why did you reject it? Why did you decide not to follow it or take it? Just take 30 seconds.